Patients don't know if you're a good dentist or not. Patients don't judge us on dentistry. You don't see patients walking around going, oh my gosh, look at the shade match on this crown, right? Look at the margin on that. Look at that. Look at how amazing that is. They don't know whether we're good dentists or not. They know if you're a bad dentist, right? Or if you don't have good bedside manner, but they only know how to judge us on the way they feel when they're in the office. They only know how to judge us on experience, how they feel. And if our team members and us, our dentists and team members, if we're always rushing around, always in a hurry, always busy, always focused on, billing insurance and getting the schedule full and answering the phones and turning over rooms and doing the instruments, and we don't focus on the patients, the issue is our patients, they don't know anything else. And the number one complaint patients have about the dental office is that many times they come to our practice and they feel like a number instead of a person. In fact, if you ask the average patient out there, they'll tell you, I loved my office when I first started going because I felt like they cared. Now I feel like a number. Well, why is that? Well, we put so much energy and attention on the new patients and focusing and getting them in, but then our consistent regular patients start to become more of a number, a code or a procedure or an insurance plan or a tooth number. So we have to make sure that we have time management in our practice, we have systems in our practice, we have verbal skills in our practice that remind us that our patients are the reason that we're all here and that the patient experience matters. And I know that this is the case because if you go out on the internet and you search any review sites and you look at what people say about the dentist, very rarely do people actually complain about the dentistry. Very rarely. The majority of the complaints that you see on the review sites about dental offices have to do with the way they were handled and the way they felt in the office. That the team didn't call them back, or they seemed hurried, or they couldn't get the answer they wanted. That all has to do with time. So the better we can get at managing our team and managing our time, the better we can give our patients an amazing experience. And at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. We're here to help our patients get an amazing experience so they'll get their dentistry done. Our purpose is to help our patients keep their teeth for life. So we have to understand how much customer service plays into that. Because if our patients don't feel like they're getting a value for what the money they're spending and the time and energy they're spending in our practice, they either won't come or they'll go somewhere else. So I'm all about it. Front Office Rocks, making sure your team member understands that there's really 3 types of customer service. I call it the 3 A's of customer service. There's awful, average, and amazing. Okay. If you're on this podcast, you're probably not awful. If you're listening to this webinar, you're probably not awful. You care enough to take time out of your day to be here to listen to this. But nowadays, being average is not good enough. Patients are expecting more. If you want to grow your practice, if you want to implement an associate or new things to your practice, if you want to take some time off and have the practice be productive and you don't have to be there, it's 5 days a week, we need to step up our customer service. We need to make sure that we're offering amazing customer service. So my whole point in time management is so that our team isn't stressed and overwhelmed and running around like chickens with our heads cut off, right? Because there's a big difference between busy and effective. If we can get our team effective, they can lower their stress level, right? And they can put more attention on the customer service for the patients. So who am I? Like, how do I know to speak to this, right? Well, it's not like when I was 5, somebody came up to me and said, hey, when you grow up, what do you want to be? And I'm like, I think I want to be a dental office manager, right? It's not like when I thought, I was a kid thinking, oh my gosh, being a dental office manager, how fun is that? I get Fridays off and if it, 9 to 5, 8 to 5. I kind of got thrown into dentistry, and I kind of joke. I say that, people either get thrown into dentistry. In my case, I married a guy, an undergrad, who went to dental school and became a dentist. So that's how I got into dentistry. I was married to a dentist. Or I joke around and say, you were a dental assistant who you weren't super great in the back, but you had a good personality, so you got moved up front. Or you were a dental assistant who maybe had, wasn't so great and you were trying to find a spot, so they moved you up front. Either way, anyway, most of us in the front office didn't grow up thinking we were going to be a scheduler, didn't grow up thinking we were going to be an office manager or a receptionist. You might have grown up thinking you were going to be a dentist, but we didn't feel that way. So we have to learn, we have to be trained, we have to grow into these positions. And I was that way. In 2002, my ex-husband now at the time got out of dental school, graduated in 99, came to me in 2002 and said, I want to open a practice. We'll open a scratch practice. You've got the business experience. You're in the front. I'm in the back. This will be great. And that's how I got thrown into dentistry. Now, my background prior to that is human resources, and I have a master's degree in organizational development. I was in sales. I was a technical recruiter. I was an administrative recruiter. I had the business experience. That was the path I was taking until I got asked to come run a dental office. And I still remember getting thrown into the office going, okay, I understand business and communication and systems and sales, but what are these D codes and what's a tooth surface and what's a number and how do we get the insurances to pay and all of these things that are, sorry, my nose is itchy. All of these things that are specific to our industry, I got thrown into. And at the time, there was no internet, there was no online training like Front Office Rocks, there were no webinars like this where I could learn. So I had to just kind of figure it out, read magazine articles, go see some of the big speakers at conferences, and just kind of apply best practices that I could into our office. Well, we had a practice on the East Coast. We sold it in 2007. We were in Baltimore, Maryland. We decided to move to San Diego, California, started a new practice here in 2008, and have a very successful fee-for-service practice in San Diego, California. So I've had the opportunity of starting two practices, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. One during 2003, 2002, the economy was very good. One here in 2007, 2008, the economy wasn't so great, and had the opportunity to grow both of these practices. And I realized about 7 years ago that there are amazing dental consultants out there that can help on the consulting level, but there's not a really good way to train team members. And that's really where I think the foundation is to helping your practice grow. Get your teams trained, give them the knowledge they need from the very first day, and then continually train them because they are your first and last impression for every patient experience. They are the ones that represent you in your practice. And so that's why I started Front Office Rocks. I started it with, it was the time between DVDs and the internet. Everyone was making DVDs. I got the good advice to do online subscription models. So now I have an online training website that trains team members. And I've had the opportunity to speak and go around the country when we're not quarantined or stuck at home. And since then have been named one of the top 25 women by DPR magazine. So I've had a lot of opportunity to kind of grow up through the trenches. And that's what I do, is I help team members, doctors and team members to let's get in the trenches and figure out how we can actually fix them.